All right, we're rolling.
All right. Hey, welcome to the Wholehearted Podcast. We're excited to be out here today, right? So we had some feedback that people wanted to know what our credentials were, so we're going to try to figure that out right now. But my name's Tyler Patrick.
What do you do? Who is your daddy and what does
exactly.
he do? Scoot over just a little bit.
All right. This way.
Yeah, go that way.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Nice.
all right. So I'm Tyler Patrick. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and Chase is my brother-in-law. Chase and I are both in recovery, and we're living the principles of recovery. And the principles of recovery happen to be principles of wholehearted living. And so that's what we're here doing, is we're sharing the things that we've learned and that we're currently learning. And
that's why we're down by this here river.
Yep, exactly. So that's what we're here to do, and today we're down by the river, actually in a really beautiful spot up on the Snake River in Rexburg, well, just outside of Rexburg, Idaho. So it's kind of nice to get out here. I didn't know if I was going to get up here today, so it's really nice.
As far as my credentials go, I'm not a therapist. I don't have that as a background. I don't have any solid schooling or masters in that, but I am an avid liver of wholeheartedness. I would say that I like immersing myself in different projects and experiences. I'm a very experiential kind of person. Some of the things that I feel like help legitimize that I'm not kidding, I like experiences, are that I spent a year watching the sunrise every day. For a full year, watched it with over 214 people. Went out each morning. Something I wanted to do so I could really feel more connected to myself, to God, and to other people. And another thing, I rode my bike cross country. That's something that I don't actually talk about that often because anyway, it doesn't matter. But
that's its own book to write, by the way.
I hope one day.
Yeah.
I did keep a journal the whole time I was out there, and I look back and there's some pretty cool stuff in there. Things like that. I love kayaking. I love spending time hiking. My wife and I just had a baby, and we've already tried getting him out unsuccessfully at doing a few things. But that's kind of where my background is in my lifestyle. Other than that, I am a creator. I love making things. I love making all sorts of things, whether it's videos or graphics, it's web related. I love art. I went through the art department at FSU. That's some of my background as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Credentials down.
Boom. Take that,
some form
Chubbs.
Some form of credentials. Thanks, Chubbs, by the way, for giving us that feedback. We appreciate all the feedback we can get.
And really, we do appreciate all the feedback we can get. Send it our way, whether or not you think it's going to be a gut punch or
we'll take it.
Yeah, or soft lob. We don't care.
Yeah.
we
we'll
need
take
the help.
Both. So today, one of the reasons we came here today is as we were driving down, we were kind of discussing what we wanted to talk about, and I was just first and foremost, anytime I can get close to the river, I'll take it.
I believe
right.
that. I know that fully.
It's like I feel it. It's like in A River Runs Through It, where at the very last line of that whole movie, Robert Redford goes, "I am haunted by waters." Like, that's me. As soon as I cross the border over here and I go through Manan and I go over the Snake River, my mind is just on how do I get to the river. So maybe subconsciously that's how we ended up here today. But
yeah, subconsciously. No, Chase, it's fine. We can come to you. We can come to you this time.
Yeah, exactly. We'll come to Idaho.
Yeah.
So the only problem is I didn't have time to bring my fly rods, which is like killing me right now, especially because there's a hatch on right now, and it's going to be a really good night tonight, I think, on the river. But anyway, sorry, I was getting a little bit scattered here. But one of the reasons we're here at this particular spot is because I began to tell Chase a story. I was starting to tell you a story about something that happened here several years ago when I lived here in Rexburg, right at this very spot. And you said, "Hold on, let's stop and let's tell this story." So
that way it's not retelling. It's always kind of nice if you share it the first time, it doesn't feel like it's old news. So tell it to me, because I don't remember most of it.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you the story, and then you're going to be able to glean whatever topic we want to cover from it.
All right,
okay?
Sounds great to me.
So it was actually a different time of the year. It was about 3 months later in the year. It was in November or October. It was pretty cold, and the water level was a little bit lower, not much lower, but a little bit lower. And I came out all by myself. It had been a long, hard week, and I just decided to take a couple of hours to just come and de-stress and be all by myself to do some fly fishing. And as I was wading along the bank here, all the way up and down the river, I was catching a few fish, and I was having a really good time, but I kept looking across, and right across over there, you can't really see it in the camera lens, but right over there, it looked like just this perfect place to fish. It had a little riffle that ran down into a big deep pool with a big snag of trees at the bottom. And I thought, oh, if I could get right there, I could cast right into that riffle and let it just go drift right down. I guarantee you there's a massive fish in there.
Just yanking fish out of
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know there were some big fish under there because that's where they like to hold. So I thought, well, it's not that swift. I mean, you guys can see behind us, it doesn't look that swift, you know, to a novice person who I was to this river when I came up here. And so I started to wade across, and about halfway across, I started to realize that water underneath the surface is way different than it is on the surface. And so I started to feel all these different pulls and these different tugs, and I started to feel this pressure on my knees, and I started to feel my legs start to quake. And I'm right in the middle, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to turn because the current's too strong, and I don't think I can make it all the way across. And right about that moment, my legs just gave out, just went down. I'm wearing my waders. My waders filled up with water.
And like a parachute, right? Just,
yeah.
You know.
But yeah, so I come up and I'm breathing heavy. The water's cold. I'm kind of starting to hyperventilate, and I can feel the current pushing me, and it's trying to push me back down underneath the water and starting to drag me down right into the spot that's a good fishing spot. It's also a good place to die. because it's this big snag of trees with this big whirlpool of like death in it, and I was like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. So I'm in this water, and I'm pressing my feet up off the rocks, trying to get my feet back. And I'm thinking like, man, like this might be it. And right in that moment, my brain went mindfulness. And for some reason, all I thought was one step, one step, one step, one step. And I kind of blacked out after that. But somehow I ended up on that side of the river, laying down, hyperventilating, feeling like I was going to die.
Man. And
I laid there for probably maybe a good 45 minutes just to get my heart rate back because I came that close to feeling like I had died.
Yeah.
And so every time I come back here, I still kind of get that rush of emotion of like, oh, I remember this place.
Wow.
You know? So anyway, that's the story.
That's pretty interesting. Not totally related, but pretty dang awesome. I think you're gonna get a good kick out of this, actually. My wife has a young brother named Chadfer. He's Boy Scout age. He went out, did high adventure last week. So for high adventure, they decide they're gonna do whitewater rafting. He lives in Florida. Awesome. They decide they're gonna take a little trip up to North Carolina, Tennessee. They end up on the Nantahala River, which is a really popular river, famous river for whitewater rafting, especially in that area. During the time that he's there, there's this big competition going on. It's whitewater kayaking, whitewater rafting, big deal, lots of people on the river. There's this one run of rapids where they've got photographers posted up on both sides, videographers. Everyone's there trying to capture the action. There's a lot of action going on in the water. Yeah. So he witnessed one of the most probably horrifying things that could ever happen. A man that was in a raft. He was severely overweight. He's got his life vest on, helmet. He's going through the water. He gets popped out of the raft as soon as he hits a rapid, right? He gets hurled into the water by what I would say is an inconsiderate rapid. And as he goes under, I'm sure he's imagining, I'm about to die. And in that moment, he's probably also thinking, that's the worst thing that could possibly happen to me, is dying.
Yeah.
And then he comes up out of the water, and the river stole his shorts. And I don't mean just the shorts. I mean he
All
was
of it.
full blown exposed from the waist down, had nothing on, just buck naked. And so as he's floating up, bobs up out of the water like a buoy under a lot of force and pressure. And then there's a raft of rescuers that they're like, hey, we're gonna help this guy out. We're gonna get him into our raft until his raft comes down. And I don't know if he knew at the time or not whether his belongings had been stolen or or if he was oblivious to it, But either way, if he did know, I personally would have been like, no, I'm good. I was gonna float this section. Don't worry about it.
I'm cooling off.
Yeah, I got this one, guys. And they probably would have been like, Kevin, that's a class 5 rapid. No way you're gonna make that. We need all manpower. We can get on these oars. Go and hop in with us. Go and pull him in. And can you imagine?
Oh
You're one of the guys in the boats, all right? So can you imagine? You grab this man by the harness. You got him by his life jacket. You give it that first heave, and then you go for the second grab point. And instead of grabbing shorts, you just copped a feel on a white butt cheek. And so Chadford, he saw this. He saw this man getting hoisted. I don't know where they grabbed, but they hoisted him in, and he had nothing on from the bottom down. And going back, there probably is no demoralizing situation.
Oh, that's horrible,
yeah,
man.
Can you imagine being him or even anybody in that raft when it's like the realization of like, dude, I just basically gave you a motivational booty smack trying to save your life.
We know each other way better than we ever wanted to.
And just make sure that you don't face any of us.
Just don't make eye contact.
All right. Yeah. We're all gonna look out and just look at the scenery from this point. And the funny thing is, they don't have like spare shorts chilling in the raft.
No. Oh, I can imagine having to take another life jacket and like make a diaper out of it.
Yeah, and just hope that nothing else is seen.
Kind of like a sumo wrestler, Oh man, that is crazy.
That's kind of like another death on the river. Another near death, we'll say.
Another near death. Oh man, you got my head spin. I got another near death in Hawaii that we'll maybe save for another day.
Oh, okay. All right, fair.
That's fair. Dang, dude, that's a funny story.
It's really
funny. Just picture being there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
funny.
One of those guys got a picture of it too.
Oh,
so
guaranteed.
Just full moon, just getting yanked out of the river.
Oh man.
Oh, it's rough.
Yeah, that's funny, dude. So one of the
sorry, I know that was a real divergent point, but we're on the river. I just heard that story, and it is. Oh man, I was like cry laughing.
If
when
nothing
I first
else,
heard it.
like this was worth it just to hear that. It made my day. Like I can't tell you how much stress just left my body.
Okay, good.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
In fact, if you got any more afterwards, please tell me because that was great. So,
so going back to your story though, that seems like a pretty terrifying situation. I think it's interesting that your mind in that moment, instead of staying in freak out mode, decided one step at a time. You say you turn to mindfulness. That in my mind seems like the opposite time to turn to mindfulness,
right?
But so why do you think that happened, and what did it avail you?
So this was at a time in my life when I was working really, really hard on the principles of mindfulness in my own life, and I was also in my profession. I was having to teach it every single day, so I think it was fresh in my mind, and I think it might have been some divine intervention.
Right. Okay.
For partly.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, and I also think that because those principles were so fresh in my mind, my brain, when it went into panic mode, instead of doing the fight, flight, or freeze, it for some reason shifted into step, 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 and that's where my brain became so focused on that I was just completely aware of just one step at a time. That I do think it actually saved my life, because I was laying on the bank right about the edge of where the big drop off happened, right after the riffle, and so I think it was just fresh in my mind, and I also think it's because I had cultivated this for several months before this experience actually happened, where I was doing daily meditation and other forms of like imagery exercises and breathing exercises and teaching these core principles of mindfulness. And so they were right there at the ready. And I think that was part of what I wanted to share today, is that idea that, when we teach skills in therapy or we learn new things, if we're not taking the time to reinforce them when it's easy, they're not there for us when it's hard.
So it's kind of like practice, 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 perform.
It's just like any really good athlete, all of their work is on game day. My daughters right now, they're trying to run 500 miles this summer in training for their cross-country season way in the future and their track season next season, because what we've learned with running is that your improvement comes in the off season. Getting your reps in, getting the miles in, getting the practice in, tools that I teach my clients in recovery. When we start teaching about phone calls, they will never make a phone call unless they've already done the practicing when they're out of crisis.
Right.
And most clients don't want to practice out of crisis because they don't see a reason to.
Yeah.
Right?
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I probably wouldn't have been practicing either, but my boss told me I was going to get fired unless I was practicing. So,
So he saved your life.
Yeah. Thanks, Kip.
Another shout out to Kip. He's doing big things for you.
Kip is a great man. He's a mentor of mine. So, yeah.
Plus, he's got an awesome wife, LaFonda. She's
not that Kip.
Yeah. I mean,
he does have a great wife too. But
yeah. That's great.
Yeah. So I think that was one of the reasons it was there, and it's that idea that we're constantly learning, but we miss so many opportunities if we're not intentionally taking action to improve those skills that we're learning on any given day or any around any given subject.
First thing that came to my mind was reading scriptures.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we grow up in church and school and wherever that we're getting that religious education, and we're told you need to read the scriptures. How often have you or I know personally, I've rejected it often,
Big
frequently.
Time. Oh yeah. A lot.
It's it takes time. It can be boring or
it's tedious.
Yeah, it's a break from the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
But those scriptures will save you one day. It's kind of a similar scenario of I've had moments in the past where I can look back and cite a specific verse that came to my mind and saved me in that moment. And it wasn't because I just, by pure inspiration, that those verses just filled my mind and I had no previous relationship or context. I'd read them. I knew them. That's the reason they were there as kind of a library for me to search through and for my mind to just be like, hey, here you go, take this. This is what's going to help you in the moment. That if you don't practice, you're not going to have that.
It's not there for you.
Right.
And something that you might have even been practicing years ago in your broken moment is when you get that insight. There's no way to get that insight unless you've done the work earlier, right? And then what we want to do is try to strengthen those things so that they become more and more habit forming for us.
Right.
So another thought for you that goes along with this that happened last night with me is I do an advanced men's group that's just more for myself than anything, to try to keep myself going the direction I want to go. And the topic came up is fascinating. One of the guys in there, his name is Dave, he brought up this concept of this idea of opposition in all things, and we were talking about willpower.
Okay.
And we were talking in the context of addiction and how the habit forms of addiction that makes it so hard to break because it's just automatic. It takes no brain power, and it's so destructive in our lives. And he brought up this idea of opposition in all things, that if we could develop a habit that will ruin our lives, what would be the power on the opposition of that if we were building habits that would actually build our lives? Right. Now take that a step further. If I'm building healthy habits so that now I'm living with better health, feeding my brain and my body and my spirit and my soul, and living a connected lifestyle by habit, there is no longer a need for willpower, because it takes no brain power. So willpower is the part that gets me to start building the habit. But once I have the right habit, what does that do for my brain? It opens my life up to all sorts of possibilities, to the point of being eventually like God. God is a God of habit. He never changes.
Right.
He's consistent. It's automatic, and potentially that's what offers him the opportunity to be all of who God is, all loving, all knowing, all powerful. That was the point last night, was that maybe the other end of the power of habit, the positive end of power of habit is that I have unlimited potential, because the more I put new habits into my brain and I don't have to use my willpower, I can put my willpower into the next best thing and continue to grow that way until eventually I'm doing massive amounts of good.
That's an incredible insight. I've actually never
I hadn't either.
That
was really
amazing.
cool. It's had me spinning all day in my head like, well, what are the possibilities?
Yeah.
If we can continue to form those neural pathways that no longer take our energy, man.
Yeah.
I mean, our energy goes right now to like all the stupid mundane stuff, or trying to get rid of biting my fingernails, or like, like, what if the habits were forming in the other direction?
Yeah. I was thinking about something that happened this last week as you were talking, where I kind of had a meltdown about time and how precious that is as a resource, and I was alluding to that a little bit earlier in our drive up, but basically I had a 10-hour day at work after not getting much sleep, came home around 6:30, and I had church responsibilities, so I left for that for hour and a half. When I came back, Chelsea was gone with the baby, out for a walk, and I saw this window of time. I said, I can use this for something. What is it going to be? And so I, in my mind, just had all these things firing off of what I needed to work on. And it felt overwhelming because I can't get this one done in that amount of time. I can't quite get this one done. And it just felt like an impossible situation. If this is my life, then I will get nothing done ever. And part of stepping into parenthood is that you have to rebalance
absolutely.
And recalibrate. But this was kind of the first instance of, oh crap, how am I going to do this? And feeling that wave of overwhelmingness. I don't know if that's a word. I stepped outside and decided I'm going to journal and write down some of these feelings. And so this is one of the habits that I've been in practice for.
You're really good at this, actually.
Actually, I will say yes, I am
You're
good at this.
Yeah.
And not that I do it daily, but that I do it for
regularly.
Things that are meaningful.
Yeah.
And while I was out journaling, it felt like pouring out the emotion, putting it down, seeing it in front of me. I even sometimes will write down a prayer and say, here's all the problems. Dear God, I feel trapped right now. What do I do to move forward? And the inspiration was, hey, you should sing that song that you like, Be Still My Soul.
Awesome.
I know that song because going back to the practice, perform, when I was living with you guys, there was a period in my life where I decided I want to learn some hymns, some things, some of the songs that have struck me hard and helped me feel spiritually connected to God. So I spent time learning the hymns and reciting them and memorizing them. I know the lyrics for probably about 10 songs because of that commitment. So that paid off in the moment where I was in despair and was saying, the sea is a storming right now and I need some help.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So having that inspiration come, singing that song, and then feeling just a wave of calm, just a perfect wash of calm. And then other ideas came to my mind of resolutions to some of the problems that I was having. So in my frenzied, frantic mind before that,
awesome.
It was impossible. It was an impossible scenario. Having that process be
already built in.
Already built in. It saved me.
Yeah.
And it changed the course of that night and who knows what else, the ripple of that action. But it, to me, is so powerful that we can have these kind of habits. I got plenty of other bad habits that I'm working on right now,
absolutely.
like you're talking about, but some of them that we do have that are positive ones, we really need to hold on to those and take advantage of them when life does get hard and we have a crap hit the fan.
Absolutely. And to be able to fall back on those things. And I think that's what happens as we continue to grow in life is that we go further and further from the edges that we're used to living on.
Yeah.
So that even when we do falter, those habits are there to pick us up and to keep moving us in the right direction with way less damage than if they're not there.
Right.
You know, and we do a ton of damage when we don't have those healthy habits in place. So that's a really good thought. That's a really good story. I don't know the lyrics to that song. I think I know most of the lyrics to that song, but
yeah. Well, it starts with "Be still, my
soul.
Yeah.
The Lord is on thy side." That's about as far as I can get.
Yeah, that's as far as I'm going to go to.
Okay, cool. Sounds good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I guess you guys, I think the topic today we've kind of come to is form good habits so that you can draw on them in time of need and open your mind to a whole new potential that maybe you're not tapping into just yet. So, you got anything else you want to talk about today?
Nope. I'm pretty sure the camera died.
Oh, so we're just on audio.
Yeah.
Okay, audio podcast. Sounds good.